the sense of impending doom and terror that shot through me when I saw that scene, and I knew it was coming. It genuinely scared me, and it didn't scare me in like a I'm afraid way. It scared me in like a burst of adrenaline shooting through my chest cavity way, and I was not expecting that.
Will, tell us about how you heard about this film.
I heard about this film scouring the internet looking for the scariest horror film I could possibly watch, and this film actually is at the top of a couple of people's lists. So I sort of got it spoiled for myself, but I can really appreciate the. I think this film would be considered a masterpiece. We'll get into why I feel that way later. You guys probably noticed how I was super picky on how I wanted you to see the film. I wanted it to be dark room, alone, no interruptions, maybe a candle, just a super scary ambiance, and hopefully you got to actually watch it that way. I feel like Kevin just watched it on his phone, like on when he was on break at work for like 30-minute spurts.
Sitting on the toilet taking a shit.
Yeah, if you watched it that way, you cannot you cannot appreciate this film.
On my Xbox in the room with the lights off. But I wouldn't use the word masterpiece though.
Well, I can understand how you potentially would feel that way. I think I can change your mind in retrospect once we get further into this conversation. But I knew what this film was before I watched it. And so, again, I sort of got it spoiled for myself. So I'm interested how you guys felt about it watching it completely blind.
Yeah, I think this one, Will, you're going to be in the hot seat a little bit for this week, where you're going to be defending a movie that we didn't like as much. I didn't hate the movie. However, I didn't find anything about it to be very exceptional. I did watch it in the manner that you suggested, dark, no interruptions, and I enjoyed my viewing experience. It was cozy. I would use the term cozy. But I was not mentally disturbed or scared in the slightest by any of it. So, in that sense, to me, it was just like a good old 5 or 6 out of 10 movie. Just like, yeah, this was enjoyable, but I don't think it excelled in anything.
Kevin?
Well, surprisingly enough, I 100% agree with Alex. I mean, I thought the movie was filmed well. I thought it felt like a real documentary. So, like, filmography was great. It was fantastic, but there was no story to it, and I was not scared at all. You know, I was waiting for it to break out into some kind of murder mystery thing, and they're talking about they were seeing her on the cameras. Like, oh, that's it. So, I mean, I was a little underwhelmed by the horror part of it, you know?
So, this event right here that's happening to all three of us right now, I would say this is like when you find a really, really good song and you just want to show it to your friends. So you take your phone out and you hold it up and start playing it, and then about 15 seconds in, they just start talking through it and they're just clearly not interested, and you're like, in your head, you're like, whoa, this was such a great song. It's a masterpiece. You're literally talking through like the hook and ruining it. Blah, blah, like, yeah, I think that, you know, maybe this was a case where me going in with the context that I did have actually helped me enjoy it more. I was kind of looking at this from the angle of, oh, it's already spoiled for me. I'm not going to be able to get the full effect. And I wanted you guys to get the full effect. But now I'm thinking that maybe some context would have helped. But both of you guys pretty much experienced it in the way that I knew was pretty likely, but I didn't want that to happen. This movie is one of the most unique films I've ever watched in my life, and I think it does exactly what it's trying to do, which is very rare. For some added context, this film was directed by a person who never made another movie. And okay, insert joke here about how that was a good choice, but I think it speaks to how obscure this film is, and I think I can assume that both of you guys had never heard of this in any way before, right?
No.
And I hadn't heard it before I scoured the deep internet for it. But yep, small budget, 1.7 mil. Director only made one film ever, and it's so unique in the sense that it's a mockumentary, the pseudo documentary style. I like that. Back in 2008, that was not commonplace at all. It's a little more common now. But the entirety of the film, and I'll say this, spoiler alert, from here on, we're going to completely spoil this movie, but the entirety of the film is a slow burn that's preparing you for one 15-second moment. And if you haven't appreciated the film through all of the first 45 to 50 minutes of exposition, that 15-second span of time will not have its effect. I mean, it essentially builds up to one super powerful, very well executed jump scare that is not cheap or corny in any way. And, to the people out there who watched this film, went in blind, made it through the first 50 minutes, which are supposed to make you feel very tense and uneasy and confused, and then they saw that jump scare scene, I would probably say that's top five jump scares in any horror film ever, maybe even number one, just by how much.
Wait, okay, so let's see if Kevin or I can figure out what the moment is, because I'm racking my brain for a jump scare. Oh man,
I'm the same. Like I'm thinking, like, did we watch the right movie?
I think you guys must have zoned out or something, because it's unmissable. It's the one singular frame this film is known for. If you look up Lake Mungo online, you'll see the still image of the jump scare over and over and over.
It's not just when they show the body, right?
Is it when they were showing what was on the girl's camera?
What was on her phone that was buried at the lake? Yes.
That's the jump scare you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like we're missing some seriously important details here, or you guys may have missed them. So,
no, I follow the story, but the thing with me is the video at that point was a little distorted. It wasn't perfect for me. I did not match the body on her camera to the body that was found in the river. I didn't. They didn't look the same to me. The only reason I knew that was the same body is because they said that's the same body, but it didn't look the same to me. I never would put that together. The quality of the video at that point in the movie was pretty terrible.
Yeah, I think you guys are missing some very, very important details and plot points here. But Alex, say what you were about to say.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure I know what we're talking about. So you're talking about when they were viewing the footage from her phone, which was buried, and it basically, like, the body comes out of the darkness, and then it freeze frames on the body.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was very much mentally present for that, but it didn't even I'm sorry, it did nothing for me.
No, there's a difference between being mentally present and understanding what you're watching. So for both of you guys, if you could just take, a minute each to explain what you interpreted was happening during that scene. Kevin, go first.
Well, I knew that was going to be a turning point in the story. The narrative was going to be, that was an important part of the narrative. But like I said, the video was so grainy that I did not put together that it was the same body they pulled out of the lake. Like I said, the only reason I knew that is because they said it in the movie. I never would put it together. It's just I understood what was going on story-wise, but visually it just didn't work for me. So,
Alex.
I'll admit your understanding of all of the context and sort of the lore of the story is undoubtedly better than mine. I'm sure I missed a lot of little details and context clues. My understanding of that event is that she was having premonitions of her own death. She was having nightmares where she was already dead, and this was her meeting her future dead self somehow. I don't know anything beyond that other than that it was she encountered her own future where she is dead and at the bottom of a lake, I guess.
Okay, that is, yeah, that I would say that's very, very close, and that is a very good interpretation of what is happening there. So it transcends her dreams of her own death because there is physical evidence on her cellular device that was found at the lake of her Alice encountering her own corpse in the darkness. Her own corpse walked up to her in the darkness, and that is on a phone. And that
Hmm.
is, again, spoiler alert, that is the only like intangible evidence of the paranormal within the film. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but the footage where Alice is a ghost that's shown throughout the first maybe 25, 30 minutes of the film,
It's
her
all fake.
brother, yeah, her brother doctored that footage. But that also leads to another very scary scene. So let me start this. I should give a plot breakdown just so I can make sure we're all on the same page. So the film opens. Um, Alice Palmer is dead. She has drowned. Her family buries her, and her mother has a very, very hard time coming to terms with her death. So her brother begins to fake this footage of her spirit walking around their home, and he does this in the hopes that his his mother will call to exhume the body, which does happen. They exhume her body just to make sure she's actually dead because the footage was so convincing. And the brother has doctored this footage to hope that his mother can finally have some closure because she is not handling Alice's death well at all. None of them are handling it well. They don't know why she drowned, how she drowned, or what really was going on with her personal life at all. In the events of the film, there's a subplot that is unearthed, where a neighbor, an adult male neighbor, is seen in this footage, and he wasn't previously seen. So Alice's brothers filming around their house trying to doctor this fake paranormal footage, and they catch that a grown man is crouching in the darkness in Alice's room looking through her things. And so
That
this
was that
prompts.
was the one moment in the film that did give me a little bit of a spook. Was the idea that they had caught their neighbor snooping around in their house. I thought that was pretty spooky.
Yes, yeah, that is a very, very good moment. That's the second best in the film, I think. And so anyway, the subplot is unearthed where Alice had a sexual relationship with this older male neighbor and his wife, and that it's not really, it doesn't really get like expanded upon. You're just sort of presented with this information, and like Alex said earlier, the fact that Alice is having these premonitions of her own death, and she has sought out the help of a psychic, and um, it essentially doesn't matter because at the end of the day, she is at Lake Mungo at night, and she encounters her own corpse, her own bloated, drowned corpse walks up to her in the darkness, and you can imagine what someone would be thinking in this moment. I mean, that is like the sense of impending doom and terror that shot through me when I saw that scene, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't have the context. I didn't have the full film watched up until that point. It genuinely scared me, and it didn't scare me in like a oh I'm afraid way. It scared me in like a burst of adrenaline shooting through my chest cavity way, and I was not expecting that. So all this to say, the entire film is a very slow burn in the form of a documentary, and it builds up to one or two very, very well executed moments that had me thinking long after the film was over. And we can break this stuff down a little more, but given what I just said, does that help you guys appreciate at least what the director was going for and that this is a very good piece of horror?
I'll tell you what I appreciate. I appreciate your passion.
Thanks.
You're excited to talk about this, and I love that. No, like I said, I picked up on all the plot points. I knew it was her corpse. I know they explained it as her corpse. I thought it was gonna be something different after they exposed the neighbor. I thought maybe it was gonna. I don't know why I kept wanting to turn into some kind of murder mystery thing, but um, I don't think I went in going thinking it was gonna be considered horror. I didn't realize it was considered horror until after I watched it. So I kept expecting some kind of kidnapping or some kind of criminal act or something, but um, they kept doing paranormal stuff, and it didn't seem like it fit for me. And I wasn't scared. I didn't feel scared at all. Uh, what you consider a jump scare didn't seem scary to me at all either. So I don't know, man.
I think one of the issues I have, and I mean, I don't want to sit here and just like say everything that I disliked about the movie because I do want to see it from your perspective, Will. This is obviously something that you got a lot of enjoyment out of. And like I said at the start of this, I don't think it's a bad movie. It just didn't affect me
I liked
in
it.
even remotely the same way that it affected you. And so that's interesting. We can try to explore that. But to go briefly down the road of things that I think made me not enjoy it as much. One is personally, I didn't find any of the actors believable. And what I mean by that is that they very much came across as actors to me. It's very, very difficult to film a mockumentary and make the people seem like they're real people and not actors. Very few films have successfully done that. I would say the only ones that I can think of that even get close are Blair Witch Project and Archivo 253, a Mexican film. But regardless, so that's number one, is that the people just seemed like they were actors to me. Did you guys feel that way at all?
I thought they were convincing,
Okay, interesting.
especially because I'd never seen any of their faces before in a film context. These are all new humans that I've never laid eyes on before, and that helps me believe, okay, this is just some documentary. I've never seen these people before. They're just random pedestrians.
Yeah, I don't know if I can back that up with any actual evidence other than just a gut feeling that I got from watching them. But another thing is just there's a lot going on in this film. There's a lot of it. It can be confusing of like what the film is trying to be, and I'm sure some of that is intentional. There are intentional bait and switches. So, for instance, like the first half of the movie, all of this footage that it's showing us going like, ooh, she's a ghost, she's a ghost, she's a ghost. Look, there's a picture and she's in the background, and there's another picture and she's walking across the frame, and it spends like 45 minutes on this. And then halfway through the film, it's like, yeah, actually, the brother made all of this up. That's fine. That's fine to do that. But my brain, I thought that this was going in a whole other direction where the horror of the story was going to be the like actual like the people involved. I thought it was going to be like the neighbor and the brother killed the sister and they're like covering up something, or I thought it was going to transition into some really interesting like twisted understandable murder story or something like that.
Yeah, I was expecting the same thing.
But then
That's
it's
just not scary to me.
I think it could have been. I mean, you can tell a scary. It just depends on how it's presented. But so I was kind of going all over the place, and there's also just a lot of things going on with like, the mother like walking around like entering other people's houses. That I thought that was going to go somewhere, and I don't know. It's hard to put into words. I guess at the time of the scene that you loved so much of her confronting her future corpse, my brain was just not even really like ready to believe that footage was even real, because it was just like, well, we've already done a bait and switch of like a bunch of ghost footage and then it being doctored. So I wasn't in the mind state to like fully accept the footage that was being shown to us. And so for that reason, I think I just wasn't mentally 100% there to be affected by that moment.
I get what you're saying, but one extremely strong defense that I can give is the fact that we have seen Alice's actual corpse up until this point, up until that jump scare. We've seen her actual corpse in the film 2 or 3 times. And side note, I think that a lot of films fall flat with their dead bodies. They just look like sleeping people instead of dead bodies. Alice's drowned corpse actually looked like a dead body. They did a great job with that. But anyway, so by the time the jump scare comes, when Alice is confronted by her own corpse, we have seen her actual corpse up until this point, and they look exactly the same. I mean, it's got the same swollen shut eye, the bloated, distorted face. It is the corpse that we've seen. It is actually her. So I even think that's probably just meant to be a callback. Once you see that face, you're as the viewer, you're supposed to be like, "Oh shit, this is real. Something is horrific is happening. Something terrible is about to happen." And the beauty of the directing of that scene is so perfect because up like Alex said, bait and switch. Okay, the brother is faking footage. Oh, is the ghost even real? What's happening here? What's going on? We see this figure manifest out of the darkness and slowly walk towards who we know is Alice, who is deceased. And as the face gets closer, you're like, this is her corpse. This is the same corpse that I've been shown. Like, this is her death. And your mind should be racing with to find a logical explanation like it has been able to do up until this point, and it's just not able to. And that's what is so impactful about this scene. Every single thing that's happened, there has been some logical explanation up until this point. But with that one scene, and your brain is expecting to be able to just find the logic in it again, and it can't. And then it jump scares you, and you're just in this whirlwind of like trying to figure out what is happening here. And then after that, the film it's essentially over. You're not left with any real answers, and you're just sort of left to confront what you've just seen. And I want to get into what I think the film means a little later, but I'm just sort of trying to explain why I think that specific 15-second scene is so powerful within the film.
Well, I would definitely call that the climax of the movie. So that was where the whole narrative changed. As far as the acting I thought was pretty good because they acted good enough that I thought it was a real documentary. It played like a documentary. The entire time I felt like I was watching a documentary or something that actually happened because the cinematography and the acting was that good. I just didn't like the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain and trying to think back on the story and see if I can, I guess, imagine a world where I would rewatch it or watch it in a different mindset and it would affect me. And I'm having a hard time really coming up with anything. And I'm not sure why.
Will, can you clarify something for me?
Go ahead.
You said that the ending was spoiled for you or something, right? Had you seen this before, or did somebody tell you what happens?
No, when I looked this up online, for whatever reason, they included the most pivotal scene in the entire film in just a photo above the description of why the movie's so great. So I didn't have the full effect. I knew what face was going to come out of the darkness. If I wouldn't have known what face was coming out of the darkness, dude, I would have loved this film. And I can't say that I loved it. I really can't. I think it does something extremely unique that I'm very glad that I watched. I don't think I'll watch this again. I've never recommended this to anyone else other than you two, and I probably would rate it maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10. But that one scene is so good, I think it deserves to go down in history as literally the perfectly executed jump scare. And I actually do. I think the meaning of the film is lost on a lot of people, and once you really sit down and ponder the meaning, it's pretty dark. It's pretty grim. I mean, there's not anything uplifting or happy about it. There's horror films where people get butchered and chopped up and destroyed, but there's still like an uplifting theme. I mean, even we've talked about the Terrifier series a couple times in passing. Art the Clown is one of the most gore-loving villains in fiction at this point, but there's still like a protagonist and hope and themes like this within the film. And Lake Mungo, it's again, I want to get into it later, but it's just nothing but death and despair and grief, and there is no upside, and there's no explanation. Like and it just leaves you with that.
I feel like Hereditary touches on similar themes, which is, the despair, and the total, basically, just the destruction of a family after losing a family member. Uh, but I felt Hereditary is a movie that, in the way it's presented, is a lot more impactful to me. I empathize with the brother and his guilt because he's responsible for his sister's death. That guilt is just so crushing. And then the tensions that arise in the family and the arguments that they have that just turn uglier and uglier over time. And of course, there's this unspoken blame that they all place on the brother because it is his fault. And all of that's going on behind the scenes.
But it's not his fault, though.
It kind of is. It's indirectly his fault.
Wait,
Because,
I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to jump in very quickly. Like,
yeah,
the reason that film isn't as powerful, in my opinion, is because for the first hour and a half of Hereditary, you do think it's the brother's fault, and you're like, wow, this is a family dealing with grief, and it's really uncomfortable. They're screaming, their relationships are being shattered by this death in the family, and they are all blaming the son. But then at the end, it's like, oh wait, no, this wasn't even his fault. This was already written in stone. This was going to happen no matter what. This was orchestrated hundreds of years in advance. So it's like, it just ruins it, in my opinion.
I will say I'm not the biggest fan of the ending of Hereditary. A lot of people really love the scene where he basically, well, honestly, the whole plot line of the demon that is orchestrating things behind the scenes and basically takes, I don't remember the boy's name, but takes his body and, is reincarnated as this prince and whatever. All of that, there's very, very, very scary moments that wouldn't exist without the supernatural plot line in Hereditary. Like the mom crawling in the corners of the room and him, like, in the classroom getting frozen and then bashing his face against the desk. There's great moments that wouldn't exist without that plotline. So I'm not necessarily saying it should be gone, but that plotline is not what is impactful to me about Hereditary. It's the very believable and just soul-crushing reality of what happened to that family. Regardless of if the end detracts a little bit from that, do you not at least feel, while you watched Hereditary, did that movie disturb you at all, or did it affect you emotionally?
Yeah, especially the scene when the mother first finds out that her daughter has been beheaded, and she's just literally on the floor screaming just at the top of her lungs, just like these animalistic screams, while her husband tries to console her and he just can't because there's no way. Yeah, that did affect me. I do think so.
Yeah, and that's something Ari Aster. It is Ari Aster, right? The director.
Yes, A24. Yeah.
He's really good at those moments that they're just unflinchingly staring in the face of despair. He does the same thing in Midsommar. At the very beginning of the movie, he doesn't waste any time. Just throws you right into this, just absolutely unfathomably horrible event that happens to our protagonist, and her just broken with her boyfriend, who was just about to break up with her, trying to console her, but knowing that there's nothing he can do. I mean, oh my goodness, it's horrifying, and it really affects me emotionally.
Well, let's be clear, Lake Mungo is not about the grief of the family at all.
So you've been hinting at sort of larger meanings, or I'd be interested for you to go into that.
Sure. This film, in my opinion, Lake Mungo that is about impending doom and the inevitable nature of your own death as the viewer. You guys probably noticed that Alice as a character is essentially like we know nothing about her. We know nothing about her hobbies, what she enjoyed, what her personality was like. We are essentially seeing the ghost of a character even when she's shown alive in the footage. We know nothing about her. And all we really know about this character is that she feels unwanted and unseen by her own family. She feels like she can't reach out to them in her moments of need. When this sexual scandal is happening, she feels like her family's not even close enough to her to be able to help her. So she feels lost. She seeks the help of a psychic. Um, but it's just a tale of, no matter how much premonition you have, um, your own death at the end of the day cannot be stopped, and it is your own thing to deal with, that no one can help you. Your own family cannot help you. Alice was not loved by her family in any way on film, so their grief seems insincere, and it's because that their grief is not the point. Throughout the film, Alice is like this lingering ghost that I feel like is in the room around me as I'm watching the film, because it's like this soul that was snuffed out. Nobody knows what happens, and even when she is confronted by her own death, she can't stop it. And the very end of the film, after the climax, Alice's family essentially says, "Well, we've moved on. We've moved on," and they have. They are not grieving. They are not crying. They're done. They're done grieving. They're done with their own process. But at the end of the day, Alice is dead, and her spirit and soul is trapped in that house, is trapped in that lake, and it will never proceed. It is trapped there forever. And the notion that, once I die, everything else around me will continue to move on, but I will be perpetually stuck in nothingness, that is terrifying. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. The film, this director, he's basically holding up a mirror, and I'm looking into it, and I'm seeing my own death approach me in the darkness, and I can't do anything to stop it. And I will once have family members who have their whole grieving process and then no longer grieve, and then I'm just completely forgotten at that point. Like, that is real terror. That's not Paranormal Activity. That's not Pennywise the Clown. That's real f***ing existential terror.
That's something that bothers you, Will? Your impending death?
That's something that bothers, I feel like, everyone. But yes, it bothers me.
What are you saying impending like it's coming soon? We're all gonna die. I know it's coming. But if I'm sitting there looking for it, I'm either gonna make it happen or I'm gonna make my life miserable. I want to go out. I don't want to see it coming. I want to live to be 100. I either want to live to be 110 or I want to not see it coming. I just go black, like the last Sopranos episode. That's how I want to go.
Well, I hope you guys can at least appreciate what I'm saying, even if you don't hold the same sentiment. When it's presented to you in those lens, hopefully you can at least see where I'm coming from, though.
Almost halfway. My thing is, I guess there's two things. One is that, the fact that my death is inevitable is something that very, very rarely comes to mind for me. It's really not something that bothers me. I am actually very, very happy that I'm going to die someday. I think that that's how life is supposed to work, because it's supposed to end and you're supposed to die. That doesn't take away, obviously there is pain and the unknown and a lot that can come with death. But as someone who is not knocking on death's door right now, it really genuinely doesn't bother me. That's one. Two is, in this movie, I think I would understand where you're coming from more if we did know more about Alice, because you're saying that what's horrific about the movie is imagining a situation where you are aware that your death is impending, or at least there are signs of it, and the signs are becoming more and more obvious and unavoidable, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's fine. That's something I can imagine that set of ideas being presented in a way that would make me empathize with those ideas and feel a similar, like, helpless, impending doom. The thing is, in this movie, I don't empathize with Alice at all because she's dead from the start, and we never really learn much about her character.
It's not about empathizing with her specifically. It's about it being that much easier for you to put yourself in her shoes as the viewer because she's essentially just a mask that you can put on.
See, this is kind of the opposite for me. Like, if a character is just a blank slate, that's an interesting way to put it, like a mask that you can put on. But for me, it's more so like I just didn't spend that much time thinking about her or her experience. Because the movie, the majority of the screen time and the majority of the dialogue and everything is her family, not her. And so my brain was busy at work trying to understand the motivations of the family.
But you're so close. You're so close to like a very good point. So I have to cut you off there. You're exactly right. The majority of the film is focusing on her alleged grieving family when she's the one who is dead, and they are continuing to live and she is gone. And even when she was alive, she might as well have been a ghost. There is no difference between the footage that we see as the viewer of her when she was alive and like the doctored footage of her when she's a ghost. There is no difference. She's always dead to us. And it's like when she was alive, she was just wasting away. Her death was inevitable, and she really had no impact on the things around her. And again, I think that all of this was done intentionally. I'm giving this director so much credit because I believe it really was all done intentionally. It's bringing light to these existential dread tier concepts that I feel like are all valid. And if people told me that they were like, I feel like I'm dead now, I'm living this life, I barely interact with other people, I go to work, I go home, I go to sleep, and every single day I'm one day closer to death, and I feel like I'm not alive now. That is such a common sentiment, and the fact that this film came out in 2008, but I feel like so many people, especially in our general age category, could relate to this. I think that's powerful. I really do. And you know me, I like to shit on a movie when I think it's bad, but I think this one does something really, really special that I've never felt this way before when I watched a film.
I want to clip that. I want to make that like a sound clip.
I do appreciate you guys for giving it a shot. I knew that this one was going to be a hit or miss, probably leaning more into the miss category for you two, but I do appreciate that you watched it, and I hope you at least got something out of it. Let me ask you both a question, and whoever wants to go first can go first, but what do you think? You guys both know me personally. Why do you think this resonated so much with me and not with you two? And I don't know the answer because it has to come from an outside perspective. So why do you guys think this film resonated so much with me?
It's because you're gay.
I'm keeping that in.
Yeah.
God.
I don't know. This is why I like the tandem of the three of us, because we all have different tastes in different things. You know, it doesn't surprise me that one of you guys liked it and the other one doesn't. It does surprise me that I agreed completely with Alex and his takeaway from the movie, but I don't know. There's just things that, you know, put a spark in you that it doesn't spark on the rest of us, and there are things that spark me that you guys aren't sparked by, and Alex has his own little sparks as well. So
I wish I had an answer for that question, Will. I don't think I do have one.
I guess that's maybe a good thing. Like, my taste isn't super predictable. And again, but let me be clear. I'm not saying this is a 10 out of 10. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm literally talking. I'm taking out maybe 2 to 3 scenes that I'm saying are masterpieces to me, and I thought the slow burn worked very well. But again, I'd probably rate this movie a 6, 7 at the absolute most.
Why not a 10? What are the detracting factors?
I think the slow burn works, but it's a little too slow. The bait and switch was cool, but I thought the psychic element was a little too, like, I don't know, it took away from the realness. I know that the psychic wasn't actually doing psychic stuff, but it was just throwing a wrench in an already good concept. If they would have just done the ghost footage, Oh, bait and switch, and then real footage, awesome. The psychic and the fact that like Alice was talking to him beforehand, I don't know. I
That was
really
a little
did.
bit odd.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. So
The whole thing of like, yeah, he had known, when he was talking to the family that he had already spoken with Alice, and then that like broke their trust in him and stuff. The entire psychic storyline was kind of odd.
I don't think it fit at all.
But I mean, to your credit, Will, I mean, I think you've done a good job of explaining what your experience was, uh, and why you feel the movie has elements to it that are very well done. Um, so at the very least, I can say I know what your opinion is. So like, it's not just like you say the movie's good and I just think it's bad and we're at a complete impasse. I know why you think the movie is good and what about the movie you think is good. I just don't necessarily I wouldn't say that I disagree, but I just don't share that opinion.
yeah, I a lot of it is almost like not even I can't even articulate it. So for example, you know me, I don't get like scared of films. I'm not scared of horror movies. I seek them out. I seek out the most disturbing real things that I can see as well. For some reason this movie literally even right now has me wanting to look over my shoulder. I don't know why. I That's the part I can't articulate, but it's yeah, it's like playing with my humanity and DNA or something. I don't know. And I think another thing is the fact that I can't relate it to any other film that I've seen. So I'm essentially going in without a reference point. Like if you see Terrifier, you're like, "Oh, this is kind of like Friday the 13th. This is kind of like Halloween. This is kind of like whatever." With Lake Mungo, it's kind of like nothing. So I think that's another thing that makes it that much easier to put myself in the shoes of Alice. And if I was a young woman dealing with these issues mentally, I would obviously relate to the character a lot more, and this movie would probably like chilled me to the bone. It is a bit hard to relate because I'm an adult male and this was a teenage girl. That makes it a bit hard. But again, like she's such a flat character with really nothing about her. It's just that much easier to put her on like a mask. And that's pretty much the end of my criticisms with the film. So just to recap, slow burns a little too slow, and then the inclusion of the psychic character is kind of wonky. But yeah, that's probably the extent of my criticism.
The difference between subjective taste versus objective quality in art. Is there a difference? And if so, where's the boundary? And is that boundary a sharp line or is it a very, very gray area? And I would say the my opinion is that the difference does exist. There are objective qualities that a film may have or not have. There are ways that you can break down a script and identify key character moments, whether or not certain things happen in a in a constructive manner or if things are just random. There's a lot of objective stuff that you can analyze in a film. And like you were saying, Will, I think if a film meets a lot of those like kind of objective requirements of just like the bare bones, that's where I wouldn't ever call a movie that meets those requirements a bad movie. But then you start crossing a line where in order to make it past that like 5 or 6 mark for me, something has to hit with me in my experience of watching it, and that is arguably a lot more subjective than anything else.